We made it. Day number 3. Third and final day of this 72-hour fast. This is definitely the leanest that I've ever felt in my entire life. Hands down. We started this thing on the scale at 202, 203, and just topped off before I came down at 194 and a half. So lost almost 8-ish pounds. Most of it's probably water weight, but I definitely feel lean and tight. I think there's a difference between depleted and run down. I definitely feel depleted, but I don't feel run down. I'm going to hop on the bike. So we're going to do a 30-minute steady state ride. I feel good enough definitely to do that. I probably could do a little bit more. We got a big work day. We kick off our whiskey mash at about 6 o'clock. We got to dump some bags and move things around. So I want to maintain as much of my energy as I can for that. So I'm just going to keep it nice and paced on this ride. But overall, I'm glad I did this. I'm feeling pretty good. Definitely ready for dinner tonight. I'm glad this is the last day, though. I think this is probably about as far as I want to push it. I don't think I can go for 96. You never know what you can do until you try it, but I think the 72 push is going to be a tough little stretch to finish it out, but let's stick to what we're doing. We got this bike for Meredith when she got pregnant with our first daughter. It was almost 6 years ago, 5 years ago, November of 2019. This thing has held up incredibly well. I don't really do the classes or anything Peloton wise, but I do use it once a week just for a steady state spin. Like the cyclical. I can kind of jump the heart rate a little bit if I want. Go zone 2 for 30 to 45, maybe an hour. Something different for training, but definitely that long endurance cardio output, something I value. Not going to go that hard this morning. I'm feeling a little bit softer and slower in my legs than I usually do. Just to be expected. I guess I don't feel any different than I expected. If anything, I feel better than I thought I would on the third day getting on this bike. Kind of nursing this pre-workout. Same thing, the beta-alanine, quercetin, and green tea for caffeine. I think the move this morning, though, is to heat up some water and take another one of those Element chocolates in. Treat that as a hot coffee instead of making a pot. In addition, yeah, take some coffee. I was talking to somebody yesterday about how I feel for this whole thing, and they asked what it would feel like to lift heavy and do some sort of high intensity training on this fast. And after going through it and sitting here now on day 3, obviously day 1 would have been fine. Day 2 probably would have been fine. I'm trying to figure out as I make my way through these 30 minutes if that's something that realistically I could do. I mean, I'm not doing it, so I could probably say yes. I'm just trying to feel out if I were to load 75+% of a back squat on my back right now, how it would feel. I imagine not very good. But people do say that they train fasted on high intensity side. I don't know. I don't know if that's something I'll ever even trial. So I'm interested to hear if anybody has experience with it, loading up and going high intensity 72 plus hours in. I'd be interested to hear that experience. This is a damn good bike though. We do some regular maintenance on it, just with some grease and keep it spinning, but overall it's held up. It's a hell of a bike. It's been a good workhorse for us. Through all 3 pregnancies for Meredith, me once a week, every once in a while twice a week, but seen some miles. Never showed any signs of wear and tear. Screen, pedals, wheel, flywheel. It was worth the money. Good investment. That's all you can ask for. Guess technically it's what you make out of it. We've definitely gotten our money's worth. Mare was on this thing leading up to the day of delivery for all 3 daughters. She had 3 great pregnancies with our girls. This was one of the constants. She was on this thing pretty regularly. Just on a 30-minute timed ride. I got 30 minutes up on that clock. Same thing as yesterday. You got to be ready, dressed, and out of the house no later than 5:05. Takes about 50 minutes to get in. Just throw the boots on and head right out to the brew deck. Heart rate did jump to zone 2 a lot faster than it usually does pedaling on this thing, so it's probably a product of not having what I usually have in my system. So that's interesting to see. Took less to get there, but I got less in me, so. Kept the heart rate under 140 for all 30 minutes of this though, which I'm happy with. Kept the legs moving through the entire thing. Didn't feel any cramping. No unexpected fatigue, spinning the legs. Definitely glad I'm not throwing a barbell around or working with a sandbag, so. Gonna mix up that element in some hot water, make a pot of coffee, throw the jeans on. No reason to shower today till later. Now we got to figure out what the meal is going to be. Some sort of steak. What cut? We'll find out. Let's go make some whiskey. Today's probably going to be the toughest of the days. Running low on energy and stores and all of it with a pretty solid workload ahead of us. So I'm going to shut this down, keep true to it. I'm going to have that chocolate element like we talked about here, right alongside mashing in. And then try to get to 10 o'clock. Probably go a little bit earlier for that elixir depending on how we're feeling. And then see where I'm at going into lunch hour, but head through those doors. Full focus, get through these final 12 hours. We got dinner on the horizon. All right. That's it for day number 3 workday and the last elixir. Next stop from here is a cup of bone broth, about an hour, maybe 2 before dinner. And then we got to figure out what dinner is going to be, but we're cruising towards the end of this fast and I feel great. I'm so glad I did it. I'm proud of the timing in terms of when I did it. I mean, I did it on the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday of one of the busier weeks, especially from a physical standpoint. So overall, that was a test, and I'm glad it went the way that it did. It was definitely a test, and I think the physical side of it and what I did while fasting and maintaining it, I think the one thing that I'm noticing about the fasting side of it is food in general is a social piece, and we eat in social situations, whether it's our family dinner or lunch as a team or all these different spots. So not eating and being the one that isn't eating in those moments is tough. But if you get past it and own it, which I felt like I talked it up and talked to anybody about it who would listen, just because I was excited to do it. And I think that's where, if I can do it in the days that I just did this time around, I can do it anyone's coming up, and that feels good pulling out today. We've reached the point in this journey together where I'm headed into the grocery store to figure out what I'm going to do to break this fast. The one thing I know I'm going to do is buy some bone broth. I'm going to have that about an hour-ish, maybe 2 hours prior to actually eating, but all I know is I want something with potatoes and I want some sort of meat. I think everybody says, like, if you get in there, you won't crave certain things. I'm interested to see how I handle the grocery store, because you see everything. Knowing me, I think I'm going to want it all, but I'm going to come out with a smart choice for dinner, something that I'm going to look forward to. and see where we're at. But this is definitely the point that I was the most excited for starting this, is coming off of it, feeling how good I feel, and now the reward of getting back to the grind and putting protein and carbs in my system, because that is what I'm built on, and that's what I'm looking forward to getting back to. Whole process has been awesome. I have nothing bad to say. I think the only thing that I had trouble with was last night. I did have trouble falling asleep. I didn't really go to bed all right. That was the first night. I fell asleep great. I had a great night's sleep. Last night, I slept fine, but it took me a long time to get to bed. I think it was probably the sympathetic system kicking on, trying to figure out what the fuck's going on without 2 days full of food. But once I was asleep, metrics and everything were normal. It's just trying to get down. My brain was going. I felt wicked clear. It was like I was completely in touch with my body, which I feel like everybody says, and I've heard people say with this fast thing, and it's hard to describe unless you've been through it, because the people that told me about fasting and told me about the benefits say once you get past the hunger pains and all the ghrelin and all that, once you're on cruise control with it, you're going to be so mentally clear and in touch with the body, it's hard to describe. And here I am trying to explain it now, and I really can't. I felt last night like I could hear every beat of my heart. Like I felt every muscle in my body. There was some feeling of like my muscles vibrating, and I could feel the muscles in my fingers and all that. I know it sounds completely whacked, but I mean it in a good way, in that going to bed, I had all the energy still in the world. As much as I wanted to fall asleep, I felt like I had full control of me, and I was happy. I wasn't stuffed up. I'm going too far into it, but the point is, you get past that mark of where mentally you think this is going to suck, and then that shoe never really dropped for me. Last night was the night laying in bed where I kind of felt like it was a little bit. Just not that I was jittery or shaky or anything like that. I was just excited to be on to this last day. So the mental clarity is the biggest thing that I'm taking away from this, and the amount of energy I have. I mean, I've gotten not all that much sleep over the last 2 days, but driving home right now, I feel as energized and energetic as I have in the last 10 years. So the positives from that are hard to describe, but definitely understated when it comes to looking at fasting overall. But we're gonna head in there, figure out what we're gonna eat for dinner, come back with some grocery bags, and head on home. All right, steak and potatoes it is. A couple of flank steaks, as big as the one I could find. I've definitely been craving a flank steak. I know I could probably go with a ribeye, but I want something that's a little bit leaner so I can have a little bit more. But I did pick up this bone broth. It was the best looking one that I could find, so I'm gonna heat this up and drink it as soon as I get home. I don't know if that technically breaks the fast or not, but I'm definitely gonna do this before I put any food in my system. Then we're gonna have steak, potatoes. What else? I got some spinach, leafy greens, but I'm gonna put the steaks on the charcoal grill. We're gonna do those outside. I'm not throwing them on the gas grill. We're gonna go home and celebrate making it through these last couple of days with a full steak over the fire. Anybody that says once you get through this, when you go to eat, you're not going to want all the shit food or anything like that, no. I walked through that store and I wanted everything from popcorn down to burgers. If it was in an aisle, I wanted to eat it. That is for sure. But I stayed true to what my plan was, and I grabbed some red meat. I got some potatoes at home. We're going to go with it. But it's not true. You're going to want to eat everything. If you do this fast, by the time you come out the other side, everything looks good.
Oh, she saw a sign.
Got one more thing to do before we actually grill these steaks, and that is pull these whiskey barrels out of the back of the truck. I'm amazed that I have the energy to do it, but that bone broth tasted amazing. That was totally worth it. We did that about an hour and a half ago. And now I'm gonna throw these steaks on the grill. We got 2 flank steaks. The potatoes are in there roasting. It's kind of funny, prepping this meal at the end might be one of the toughest sections. So all I wanna do is eat. And I gotta prep and potatoes, grill, and charcoal. So just adding to the excitement, but adding to the I'm ready to eat moment. Gonna shut this down. Enjoy the night with the girls, and we'll check in to close it out officially. But so that's it. That's a wrap on 72 straight hours of fasting. I didn't know what I was getting myself into, but that experience was unbelievable. It's hard to describe how good I feel, especially after refeeding with all that steak. I don't know how many ounces it was, and definitely almost close to 2 full potatoes and all the greens. Wash it down with another soda water, but I feel accomplished. I feel proud of what I did and how I did it over the last couple of days, still managing life and work and everything that goes into being a dad, all the while kind of digging into myself and seeing what I'm able to do without any food in my system. And I'm, staying on top of the electrolytes, staying on top of the hydration. I'm unbelievably grateful for those elements. I'm grateful for Treehouse, who came up with that elixir with the sea salt. Those things were money, and I think having a plan and sticking to it as much as possible, but also making sure that I reacted to how I was feeling, sticking true to the workouts in the morning, all of that made it what the experience was. And I can't wait to do it again. I would recommend it to anybody who is thinking about fasting, who's nervous about going through it. You learn a ton about yourself. You have all of this clarity that I don't think can be expressed from here to you. I think it's something you got to go through and feel yourself, because the back half of today, I'd say the last 12 hours of this thing were probably the best that I've felt in the last 10 years. And I don't mean that lightly. I mean, I had all the energy in the world. I felt clean. I felt light. I felt tight. I just like everything that we work for. It all kind of came to fruition over the last 24 hours and over the whole 72. So if you're thinking about it, dive in. There's never going to be a perfect time. You just got to kind of rip the Band-Aid off and come up with a plan. Hopefully this gives some tools to how to get started, how to go after it, what to use, when to use it, and just see if it's one of those things that can benefit you. Again, it might not be for everybody, and I don't think it is for everybody, but for me, that was something that's going to change the course of how I take care of myself long term, and that's all I can ask for.